Hey, I thought I would make a video on how to make cold brew coffee because it's literally the only useful thing that I know how to do. But it's a useful thing to be able to do because it's very cheap. You can get iced coffee every day without having to go anywhere, and you don't have to buy any kind of equipment to make it. All that you need is a mason jar and ground coffee and a nylon or some kind of sock. This nylon is really great because I've used it a lot of times and so it's stretched out. Basically for me, like all the hard parts of making cold brew coffee are when I'm actually pouring the coffee and I end up spilling it and making a huge mess or not being able to get it into the nylon, which is hard with a new nylon, but once it's all stretched out, everything's great. So you don't actually need more equipment than this, but since I tend to have trouble pouring and measuring the coffee, I also use a smaller mason jar and a funnel to measure the coffee. So you basically the largest concentration of coffee that you would want to use would be like 1 part coffee to like 3 parts water. So you could do less, of course, but I like to make it really strong because I usually have ice in it. So anyway, since I'm going to be making stuff in like an 8-ounce jar, I then want to have 2 ounces of coffee in there. I actually, as you can see, I already poured some of this before making the video because when I'm pouring stuff, it's basically the most embarrassing part. I often will spill things or have a lot of trouble, so I just did some of that early so I didn't have to do it in front of anyone else. Anyway, this is about 2 ounces of coffee. I'm not super fussed that it's not perfect, especially because 2 ounces of coffee and 8 ounces of water is quite strong. Anyways, I put the nylon on it and then I pour it into the nylon and therefore into the big mason jar. And now the nylon with the right amount of coffee is in the jar. And the jar just has to be filled with water and put in the refrigerator. Sorry if you thought this was going to work immediately. I guess this might be like a disappointing end to the video. So you have to put it in the fridge for like 12 to 24 hours. Or you actually can just like leave the sock full of coffee in there. Like nothing horrible will happen, but it does make the coffee get kind of weird and like frothy. So I find it slightly weird and gross, but like I don't think it's a huge deal if you can't take it out for some reason. Something that I think is nice when visiting people, not that any of us is going to be doing this, is that instead of bringing all my supplies, I just bring a jar like this, and then I can put in water and put it in the fridge when I'm there. Anyway, that's the end.